We have another episode in our virtual retreat for Intergalactic and Star Family. And next we have Neil Gaur, founder of Portal to Ascension. Lots of wonderful teachings from him. Lori, please tell us more about Neil. Thank you.
Well, I've been in your classes and followed you for some years now, and he's a bright light out there, beaming it out to all of you. He does conferences and channels on workshops on channeling, on ascension, on the star family, raising your vibration, and he hosts lots and lots of different speakers as well, um, coming together in the collective consciousness for the greater good. And he's dedicated to helping us. So I just want you to really open your hearts and welcome him now to his presentation. And this is the first time we've worked together in one of the conferences that we've promoted. But I'm very excited to see what you're going to share. And I love your shirt. It's just exactly what we were doing. There is
Can
nothing
you
you
read it?
can't do. Yeah. So thank you for answering the call to be here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I'm really excited to be here. Good to meet you guys. And I guess I'm just gonna, is it okay if I share my PowerPoint?
Ah, yes,
Absolutely.
let me make
Because we
you.
could do anything. Do you want to talk to me? Should I do a PowerPoint or I can freestyle it?
I think it's
Oh,
your
we would,
choice.
yeah, I'm going to make you a co-host so you can share your screen, Neil.
All right, let's do it.
All right. We'd love to see your stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
take it
Let's
away.
um let's see where to begin. Which one do we want to do here? I think we will do in the theme of the galactic awareness would be what I believe is going to be first contact, which is us communicating through a channel state with other realms of consciousness. I was at a Bashar event a few years ago, and Daryl had channeled Bashar, and Bashar had said that first contact was going to be channeling, and it kind of stuck with me ever since. That more and more people are going to be getting communication through the mind's eye, um through their own consciousness before we have physical landings, and it's almost like that is the best way for us to be prepared vibratorily and also physically for what's to come before there's mass landings. And I feel that what's happening now, being doing these events I do, we do about 70 events a year, 60 to 70 events a year, and I work with over 4,000 speakers. And what I've noticed now is that there are more people channeling than ever before. And it's because the veils are getting thinner, guys. And so this presentation I just put together literally like a few weeks ago. We won't have time to do the whole thing, but we're just gonna have fun with whatever we can get through. And I called it, dun, 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 let's make it full screen here, Channeling Across Time from Ancient Temples to Quantum Consciousness. And I was at, you guys, I don't know if you've heard of the channel panel, but my friend Rob Gauthier puts on the channel panel 2 times a year now. And I'm the only person that presents there that doesn't channel, even though technically I feel like we're all channeling on some level, but trans channeling is a trans channeling 3-day event. So since I still present there, I try to add some components to add some context to what's going on. And so I went on a deep dive on the science of channeling and the history of channeling. So that's what we're going to be sharing today. And first, so some of what we'll go through: ancient wisdom, quantum physics, some neuroscience. Don't hold it against me if we don't get to all of this. Holographic and simulation models, modern evidence of channeling. But first, I'll just tell you guys a little bit about me. I was born in London, in England, in 1982. I was raised Hindu, and I actually moved to the US, to California, when I was age 12. When I was at an early age in life, I started seeing a lot of similarities in religions that supposedly I had been told, had evolved independently from each other. Right? Being raised Hindu, being born and raised in England, celebrating Christmas every year. Like, why is a Hindu kid celebrating Christmas? It's actually pretty common for most Indians in England to celebrate Christmas, and now even in the US. But I was such a philosopher, I guess, at that early age and thought so deeply. I started wondering, it's not even our religion, and I love it. Every Christmas was great. I watch King of Kings every year. I watch Moses every year. I watch Ben-Hur every year. And I started seeing similarities between religions. And this continued until about 2001, when I was realized that there's a deep connection between Yeshua and Krishna, Jesus Christ, and Krishna. It's not a coincidence that they both have Chris in the beginning of the name. The same root is there for a reason. So this inspired me to go on the search for the root of all religion. So that's what I began doing in 2001. That's what created all of Portal to Ascension. Portal to Ascension came from two things: an unconscious desire to heal from childhood trauma that I didn't realize until 2016 that was part of it. And then the root of all religion, trying to find out what is the origin of everything. Is there an original source that we all came from? If there were less humans on the planet at one time, did we all come from a specific tribe? What actually went down on planet Earth? So I went down the rabbit hole, guys. I got really deep into conspiracies. I was really afraid. I thought the Illuminati was out to get us, and and that was until around 2008. 2006, 2006, I created the first online Facebook group that then became Portal to Ascension in 2008. And I did my first event in Costa Mesa. And not until 2012 was there really a milestone. I was kind of just playing around with different events, figuring out, exploring consciousness, exploring the extraterrestrial connection, exploring UFO disclosure, exploring ancient civilizations and what they knew about the ET connection. In 2012, I was like, let me create my first event that was called the Cosmic Reunion 2012. It was 1 month before the end of the world. If you guys remember, the end of the world ended December 21st, 2012. And I created this event in honor of that, right? And that was really like the beginning milestone. And then another milestone was in 2014 when I went 100% online. And now, we have an event website, over 4,000 events been created, portal2ascension.org, over 4,000 speakers I've worked with. And my website, the largest event that we're ever doing is in 3 weeks in San Rafael, California, New Living Expo. But after 18 years of creating events and presenting and 25 years of research, here are some of my conclusions. The science, we'll call this subtitled The Science and Ancient Wisdom and Spirit of Interdimensional Communication. When I was young, a kid, my mom would tell me, because another thing I would wonder if you guys know anything about Hindu mythology and stories, the story of Krishna, the Mahabharata, Arjuna, Rama, Sita. There's all these stories of these ancient prophets on earth, just like Jesus, just like Moses walking, but having relay communication with the gods, right? Consistent communication, not like Moses when he needed a burning bush, right? Just a back and forth conversation continuously happening. And my mom said to me, there was a time where humans could speak with the gods. If you look at ancient texts all over the world, you see depictions, and the Sumerian text that you see here, the Sumerian tablet that you're looking at from ancient Mesopotamia, that is current day Baghdad in Iraq. This was a tablet about humans worshiping the gods, which they obviously, you guys probably know this story, called the Anunnaki. And you see this across the planet, that a lot of ancient cultures dating back thousands of years, I would say pretty much most cultures dating back over 3,000 years, even earlier than that, because being in Greece right now, doing a lot of Greek research, even the times of Pythagoras, the times of Alexander, it was a known fact that humans were able to communicate with the gods, and in some places breed with the gods, like Alexander being the son of Apollo, like Pythagoras being the son of Zeus, right, with his mother. So if there was a time that humans could speak with the gods, is this mythology? Is this wishful thinking? Is this ancient sci-fi? Or is there some truth to this? As I started doing my research, I started realizing that it seems that time goes in cycles, that reality goes in cycles. We go through evolutions of consciousness, we go through devolutions of consciousness. It's like an endless loop. Who knows how long this has gone on for? And this, I don't expect you to read any of this, and you don't have to try to. This is 100 ancient civilizations talking about time being in cycles, right? Yes, there was probably some sort of connecting tribe at one point. Yes, we all went around the planet and evolved separately, independently from each other. But if one thing connects, two thing connects. But when you get over 100 different civilizations all around the world in every single corner of the planet, pretty much saying the same thing in their own lens, that time goes through evolutions and devolutions of consciousness and different types of ages, you have to start thinking, what is actually going on? And could it mean that there are specific energies for each cycle? And could that mean that there are times where we're able to communicate and connect with these beings and these deities because the veils are thin? So what did they know is the question. What did they know about reality? The Greeks, will speak about a couple of these civilizations and what they spoke about. Um, Synchronistically, I chose this presentation, forgot the slides here, and I'm in Greece, ending of the 14 days of journeying through the Greek islands and doing a conference at sea here. And the Greeks spoke about ages as well. There's actually 4 ages. The heroic age is the age, the extra age they added in there because that's technically our shifting age. It's an in-between phase. But they spoke about a golden age, a silver age, a bronze age. The Greeks were interesting because Hesiod is the one who wrote this, but he spoke about time being, he spoke about the type of man, the type of human that existed in each age. Suffering, greed, deceit, all the way in the Iron Age, Golden Age, peaceful, godlike humanity. And then in India, we have the same thing as well. But in India, we have not only do we have like the Kali Yuga being the age of strife, the Satya Yuga being the age of virtue, which obviously is very similar to this. It's actually the same, just different words. But we also have dates within the Indian calendar system, which we'll get to in a second here. But look at this image here to the left, right? This is an actual image explaining the trajectory of our solar system through our galaxy. Now you see this wave going here. That's this path of the sun around the Milky Way. You see this one curving. So that's our solar system curving up and down. And then you see this round one that goes around it. So not only are we going up and down like a wave through our galaxy, 200 light years above the galactic plane, which is the milk of the Milky Way galaxy, 200 light years below the milk of the Milky Way galaxy. But we're also spinning around, which then creates the precession of the equinox that we also experience with the zodiacs. And within this graph that I'm showing you to the left is the actual physical locations of our solar system that then creates a moment where we're in specific areas in our galaxy that also reflect the specific age we enter. Okay. So depending where we are on there, we are in a different age. So you can just say like, hey, we go through these ages, we go through rises and falls of consciousness, we have these different experiences. But what I'm trying to show you here is it's actually physically depicted in the position of our solar system as we traverse through the Milky Way galaxy, right? It aligns with the equinoxes, aligns with the zodiacs, right? Every 2,000 years, the zodiac changes. It has something to do with us diving into the milk of the Milky Way galaxy, which is a high concentration of ether. It has something to do with us going on the north of the galactic pole, south of the galactic pole. All of those have an effect on the frequency and the consciousness of our planet. And just showing you here now to the right, this is the left one is the image of the actual scientific image of what's going on. The right one is the ancient Indian scripture that goes ahead and shows the calendar with the dating and the dates of which we fall from one age to another age. And we'll just briefly talk about this. You can see here the Kali Yuga at the bottom started in 700 BCE. And technically the Kali Yuga, which is the Dark Ages, ended around 1700 BCE. But then there's the 200-year transitionary phase to the Dwarpa Yuga, which is the next age. Every one of these ages has a theme to it. The Kali Yuga is illusion, delusion, and hierarchy and authority. Hierarchy and authority. Giving your power up to hierarchy and authority, and also being delusional. What's right is wrong, what's wrong is right. Things are flipped. But when we get in the Dwarpa Yuga, we get to what's now called the Bronze Age. And now that's the age of sovereignty and that's the age of energy. It's the age where we discover energy like electricity. It's the age when we discover quantum physics. It's the age when we realize we are energy. It's the age when we start tapping into our own infinite energetic potential. And sovereignty, moving away from worshiping a sovereign, like we did in the Kali Yuga, to realizing our own sovereignty. And if you go back 13,000 years at the end of the last ice age, at the Younger Dryas period, when an asteroid hit the planet, you go back to 11,500 BCE, which is the middle of the Golden Age period, which is also when the Sphinx in Egypt existed. And here's like a simplified graph here. You can see that flat line in the middle. That's our Milky Way galaxy. And then you can see the trajectory, the curve at the bottom, curve at the top. That is what I was showing you here with the curvature of a path around the sun. That's our solar system. And then you all can see how the zodiacs are connected to it, right? And look at this here where Pisces is. We've been in Pisces. What happens after Pisces? Oh, we enter the galactic disk again. What happens after the galactic disk? We enter the age of Aquarius. In the Rig Veda, which dates back, the Rig Veda was passed down orally for some time, but the first written version of the Rig Veda, around 1500 BCE, the oldest Indo-European scripture, contains numerous hymns describing seers who heard divine wisdom from higher realms. Channeling described as Srutri, that which is heard. So in the Rig Veda, they talk about channeling, talking to extraterrestrial beings, interdimensional beings, and it's called Sruti, that which is heard. Mentions Soma rituals, which is actually most likely mushroom journeys, psychedelic mushroom journeys in the ancient times. States of consciousness enabling direct communication with the devas, gods. I say gods, guys, with a lowercase g, because this isn't God. This is like the divine, this is the celestial beings from other dimensions that we're able to communicate with. The ones that had more of a direct insight with God, the ones that had probably less amnesia or no amnesia to understand the grandioseness of the universe. In the Rig Veda, there's a quote: inspired seers of old in their hearts sought wisdom. The truth was revealed to them in their inner vision. And then even in India, later on, around 800 BCE, we have something called the Upanishads. It describes inner journeys with a self known as the Atman, communes with the universal consciousness, which is Brahman. The Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita as well. If you guys aren't familiar with Indian text, the Bhagavad Gita is the Indian Bible. The Mahabharata the Mahabharata is an epic text, huge, massive text. The Bhagavad Gita is the Indian Bible, but it's only one chapter of the Mahabharata, is the Bible. And in this, we have Arjuna speaking directly to Krishna. And Krishna is a divine incarnation of Godhead, which is Vishnu. And Arjuna that's a prime example there of what's going on with interdimensional communication. It repeatedly references the time when Dharma declines and humans lose the direct connection with divinity. It's an implication that there are ages where there's veils were thinner. Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Golden Age, Silver Age, the ages in which communication with divinity was much easier. The veils within. We see it around the world. Enuma Elish talks about gods and humans and the Anunnaki in communication with each other. Genesis, Adam and Eve speaking directly with God. Exodus, Moses speaking to God at least twice, burning bush and on the top of the Mount Sinai. The Mayans speak about it. The Zoroastrians said they had direct communication with the divine fire, the essence of truth and consciousness. Plato said that there was something called divine madness, Theia Mania, the sacred trance through which oracles and poets receive inspirations from beyond. There's been communication with these beings, and what's happening now is we're shifting from this cycle back into these higher realms, like I showed you here, right? Look, we're in the upturning consciousness. Kali Yuga at the bottom, 1700. We're on our way up. Guess what's happening? The veils are beginning to get thinner again. As we fell from consciousness, structures started being implemented around the world in order to maintain our connection to the divine. And these structures were something like the pyramids and so many different things that, if you know, this is a whole presentation on its own, but the pyramids on the Giza Plateau and throughout the world were multifaceted, multi-uses. If somebody says what was the pyramids for and someone gives you one answer, that is not even 1% of the answer. And again, there's a whole presentation just on the Giza Plateau pyramids, all the different elements that we're discovering that it could have been used for. But one thing it seems that could have assisted as well is creating kind of like a satellite antenna that amplifies the energy within there and then has some sort of crystalline, like literal crystal out casing that then allows for communication with star systems that it's aligned to. The Giza Plateau, Orion Peninsula, right? The Orion's belt. So most likely extraterrestrials or beings from that reality. And in the Giza Plateau at the pyramids here, this image that I have here to the right is kind of showing you a simplified version of what's going on below the pyramid. Underneath all these pyramids, there is actually aqueducts, and the Nile River used to be on the other side. The Nile River used to be on the other side of the pyramids, and through geological migration, I guess is the word from geology, the Nile River now has gone and moved position to the complete other side of the pyramids. But back 12,000 years ago, the whole of this is confirmed science. The whole of the Sahara Desert was a lush oasis, beautiful paradise. It was, and there was an ice age, so it was frozen on the north side. America was under ice. The south was under ice. The equator was the best place to live, including the Sahara Desert. Lush oasis. The Nile River would overflow every now and then, every season or so, and the water would go in the aqueducts below the pyramid. The aqueducts in the pyramid below would then go and create a rush within there with the water rushing in, and then would create an electrical current because of the water rushing into the aqueducts. The electrical current would then be picked up by copper rods. You know, this has all been discovered by mainstream now. Copper rods in the water in the aqueducts. The copper rods went from the aqueducts to the inside of the pyramid into hollowed out tubes, thereby creating electrical current, picking up the electrical current through the copper rods, sending it into the pyramid into a hollowed out tube. And the hollowed out tube then created what? An acoustic sound based on the frequency that was picked up by the water rushing in the aqueduct. And then the acoustic sound will go into specific chambers in the pyramid for who knows what. Healing, communication. All we know is they were using the natural frequency of the earth, position the pyramids on ley lines anyway, in order to create this frequency that would then affect whatever and whoever was in there to do some sort of thing. And I think it was used for many things, healing for sure, and communicating with our star family. There's another place in Malta as well, the Malta Caves. The Malta Caves are some of the most ancient caves in the world. The stories of giants there. Malta has been used, it's an island off the coast. It's not really off the coast of anything, but it's in the Mediterranean. And this island has all these caves in there that emanate 110 hertz frequency. So when there's wind blowing through it, the wind bounces off the walls and creates 110 hertz frequency. When you're inside it and you're making a noise, your noise bounces off the wall and converts to 110 hertz frequency. When there's silence, there's an inaudible 110 hertz frequency all the time. Imagine if I was an emperor of a kingdom and you were the architect, and I said, hey, go ahead and create me a structure, a building, but you need to make sure that when you're done with this building, with the last stone, that it's going to be emanating this specific exact tone of frequency. You need to literally be thinking multidimensionally, and you need to know this is a technology that we can't even process, and you need to know what the outcome is going to be before you even begin. You need to know how it's going to end and see that multidimensionally before you even place the first stone. So this 110 hertz frequency thing is all over the world. Egypt, Malta, Newgrange, County Meath, Ireland, right? All over the world, we see the same frequency through ancient structures, all dating back to at least 6,000 BCE and before. And people have now gone into these structures. Here's some more images of the caves. On February 17, 2012, Vancouver Archaeoacoustics Convention, it's a mainstream convention organization, Archaeoacoustics, Archaeology and Acoustics for Sound, where archaeologists and anthropologists and scientists got together to discuss the sound and resonance in ancient sites because they can't deny it. They went to Malta and they tested the frequency and they discovered the 110 hertz. They did EEG tests on people's brains to see what happens when they feel the 110 hertz. And they discovered it stimulates the area for visuals and creativity, a frequency-induced psychedelic state for communication with yourself and with others. Some participants who were part of the study claimed to have had out-of-body experiences And researchers detected that there's a strong double resonance frequency or overtone going on there. Like the frequency was like a Tibetan bowl, creating out of body experiences for mainstream people that weren't into the esoterics like we are. So were these structures created for us to communicate with ETs, or celestial beings, divine beings, whoever, whatever? Because it seems that we were at a high level of consciousness. We had telepathy. We were interacting with beings from other realities and planets. Some of them were engaging on this Earth. The Earth began falling into these lower dimensions. It's inevitable, it was meant to happen. As we fell from grace, so to speak, we began losing certain abilities. Our gifts started going offline. Our brain capacity, we started using less and less of our brain. We definitely started using less and less of our DNA, right? We have multiple DNA strands and we only use a percentage of it. And now the ones that knew and remembered the ancient ways wanted to create technology that allowed us to continue the communication, communicate and continue the connection. So they built tools, they built things like the Ankh, they built structures around to basically be able to still keep that connection going. But what does the science say? We're gonna get into some science now. What does the science say the ancients were doing? How is this possible? Merging of the mystical and the science. So let's go into the quantum world. But I really wanted to find out, like, because my whole thing is like, how do I prove to people, not from a place of like, you must um you must adopt this belief system and I need to prove and tell the world the truth, even though that's how it was when I started. I was like so passionate about like convincing everybody like 20 years ago. And it's like we're I often say that I'm not here to preach to the choir, even though the choir is welcome to listen. And it's because like, and you and I, we're all the choir, right? A lot of people don't need to know the science because they are just experiencing it. And that's all they need to know. Some people love to know the science behind what's actually going on to prove it and validate it and drop deeper into the presence. But then for the rest of the world that isn't in the know, this science element of actually the evidence of what's happening. Like I just showed you what's going on with our solar system. That's actual literal science backed through multiple sensors and tests that our solar system is in alignment with the ages of humanity, where we move. And then these things here, this is for people, whether you want to drop in deeper to the understanding of what is actually going on with you or with humanity as we start communicating, or for those that are need some sort of proof even that this is a reality, because so many people just think it's like new age hogwash or just woo woo, right? They like if some random person on the street that never has seen someone channeling before all of a sudden walks into a Bashar event, what would they think? Right? Something like this, it would preface that in order for them to start being open-minded to all the possibilities of what can happen and what we can do on this planet. So let's start with non-locality. When two or more particles influence one another instantaneously, even when separated by vast distances, right? Two or more particles influence each other instantaneously, even when separated by vast distances, without any physical connection or signal passing between them. That's what's happening in the quantum world. That's what's happening with quantum computing. Defies classical physics, which says nothing can travel faster than light. Instead, it suggests everything is fundamentally connected beyond space and time. If you want to send a signal to somewhere, you send a radio signal. But if you want to go a little faster, you send a light signal. And then technically, that's as fast as you can go because it's a light signal. The Pleiades, I think, is like 800 light years away. Let me send a signal to the Pleiades in 800 years, I'll get there. But non-locality is the deeper level of physics that breaks through the simulation of light. That's all the simulation. The deeper level of it all is the subatomic world, where all things exist simultaneously and are in constant communication instantaneously with each other. And what happens is that with non-locality, we realize that we're able to send messages, signals, information, collect data instantaneously from here to the other side of the universe. The mind in non-locality is utilizing the principle to access information beyond physical proximity. Channeling is the non-local awareness of consciousness tuning into the universal field of information, transcending all space-time limits. Tuning in to the universal field of information. Call it the Akashic Records, call it the subatomic world, call it the computer program of the reality that we're within. It transcends it all because it all currently exists. Imagine, for example, like you're playing a video game. You want to figure something out within that video game. So you need to go through all types of levels, mazes, caves, whatever, to basically get to the final boss to be able to win a victory on certain thing. It's a linear progression. But when you go into it, when you transcend that, and now you open up the computer code in order to find the code of what is going on in that moment, and you're able to see all the code in one moment, that is the subatomic world. The subatomic world is seeing the code that made up the video game. The presence of third dimensional interaction within the video game when you're unconscious is the linear progression in order to discover what you could have discovered if you transcend space-time completely. And then there's quantum entanglement. And in quantum entanglement, entanglement is when two or more particles become linked. So the states remain correlated no matter how far apart they are. Changing one particle instantly affects another, whether it's on Jupiter, whether it's in the Arcturus system, wherever it is. Whatever you do to this particle here, it will change the other one immediately. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance because it implies that the universe behaves as a single unified system. Channeling could occur through entanglement of consciousness. The channeler's awareness becomes momentarily linked with another intelligence or frequency in the field. Just two might just like two minds exchange data beyond time and distance, right? So this one here is linked states. This one, non-locality, they can influence each other. This one is linking them together. So what happens scientifically when we connect to other realms, consciousness, downloads, dream states, extraterrestrials, beings, guides? What's happening? We're doing entanglement and locality, non-locality. That's the quantum equation. Entanglement is the connection. The mind or soul becomes tuned to another frequency. Who do you normally connect with? Ask the first 100 channels you find. Chances are it's another version of themselves in another reality that they're already connected to through the subatomic world that they're made out of. We're made out of infinite subatomic particles. We're made out of infinite atoms, or many atoms. The atoms are made out of subatomic particles. The subatomic particles are quantum particles that are vibrating in and out of reality, kind of like a hologram does. As we vibrate in and out of reality, the reality that's vibrating in and out of is the connection to all parallel versions of ourselves. So you would, through intention, whatever you do in order to connect with the beings that you're going to connect with first contact occurs for us all, is you have entanglement going on. You create the connection to a specific version of yourself or someone you have sort of agreement with to communicate and have a conversation with. And the non-locality is the transmission. The transmission. They both sound the same, but one's the connection, one's the transmission. The information flows instantaneously through that entangled link, what we call receiving a transmission. Why is it that Daryl Enka, when he channels Bashar, can get the information immediately if this being exists light years away? Because of entanglement and non-locality. And then we got deeper here. Quantum coherence and superposition. Quantum particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously until observation. What does this mean? If you guys know anything about the double slit experiment, which I think I'll get into a little later here, but I'll share it right now. In the double slit experiment, basically, to simplify it, they shot photons at a sheet, and there was two sheets, one in front, one behind it. And when they observed, when they were looking at it and gave it its attention, full attention, it would act as a particle. The photon was act as a particle and hit the first sheet as one single dot because you're shooting one particle, the particle hits the dot. When you don't look at it and you shoot it, but you're not paying attention to it, all of a sudden it acts as a wave and it goes through the first sheet and then goes into the other one and acts simultaneously as a particle and a wave at the same time. What does that mean? It means that all things are wave probabilities until you give it your attention. When they're not paying attention to something, it's infinite probabilities. When you observe it, it collapses into a timeline. Conscious may operate through coherent superposition, awareness existing across multiple states, or dimensions simultaneously. Then the individual entering this specific state collapses the probability wave into a single coherent signal, like tuning a radio. So I'm talking about how we're talking to these beings now. Not that sad. This is across the board for almost everything in reality, even like the things that happen on day-to-day life for you. But in this channeling state, contact state, individual entering the state collapses the probability by putting their attention and consciousness on, I must speak to this being now that is me on Sirius. The connection point is the collapse of multidimensional probabilities into one transmission. And the quantum effects have been found in biological systems as well. Okay, this exists across the board. I'm going to give you bring it down to earth and give you an example of what's happening here. Quantum effects, non-locality, quantum coherence, superposition, entanglement, transmission, being able to communicate instantaneously with the whole universe is happening here on Earth, have been found in biological systems. Photosynthesis in plants, we see them using these things. Avian bird navigation, the way we smell, we're seeing quantum components in our senses for birds, smelling, plants. It suggests that the human brain could maintain quantum coherence under specific conditions. We have something, right? This was the most mind-blowing thing of this research. We have something called microtubules inside neurons, inside the neurons in our brain. We have something called microtubules. And there is now evidence to suggest that they act as quantum processors. And we'll get into what that means. During channeling, brain networks synchronize, enabling the quantum scale coherence that access the field. So basically, we have quantum sensors in our brain. Just like you have you have receptors in your eyes for light, just like you have receptors on your skin for the air and the cold and the temperature and the touch, right? Just like you have senses for hearing in your ears, our brain has microtubules for sensing the quantum world. The microtubules in our brain are the quantum processors that connect with the extraterrestrial consciousness. That is how your communication, that's how people speak to dragons. That's how people speak to the dolphins and whales. That's how people speak to, that's how Daryl speaks to Bashar, through these sensors in our brains. And great example are birds. Has anybody ever wondered, maybe because we just see it the whole life, and I took me a while before I even started having these thoughts about birds, is have you ever wondered how and why birds are able to synchronize their flight patterns so effortlessly, so instantaneously, where they're moving around, they're making right turns at the same time. You know, I was in Glastonbury last year and I saw a whole bunch of birds creating a vortex, like a wormhole vortex, like a tornado vortex, and diving on this church. It was amazing. I was like, what the heck's going on? And instantaneously. So if maybe leave in the chat what do you think they're doing. Um, Even though I'm going to get into the answer right now. So if I give you the answer beforehand, so be it. But are they communicating from radio signals? Are they communicating from sensors? Are they speaking words like chirping? Are they sending a signal to each other, from each other to the other one? And because they're in such close proximity, they're all being able to pick up that signal instantaneously? None of those. The birds have microtubules inside of them picking up the subatomic world. They literally are acting with non-locality and entanglement, and the microtubules are connected to the quantum world where all information through entanglement and and non-locality is instantaneously available. There is no transmission. There is no signal being sent. There is no words being said. There is no frequency being sent. The quantum world, all things exist simultaneously at all times. All information is available instantaneously. The birds have some sort of beacon within them where they're able to pick up everything and anything instantaneously in that moment. Right? There's even a chance that these birds, if they were separated long distances and they still had some sort of communication and flight pattern, that they could actually make turns right, left, being miles away from each other because they're actually using subatomic processors, quantum processes within their brains. The 0 point field. Even in empty space, quantum fluctuations produce an infinite sea of energy known as the 0 point field. Channeling could be the act of decoding information patterns, encoding in 0 point fluctuations. This field connects every particle in the universe. So it's like basically communicating with these beings is like decoding informational patterns, patterns that are informational that are all in the 0 point. The 0 point is the subatomic world. The 0 point is the void. Information that exists in the void that we're able to pull and decipher. Next couple of images here are just to take this from the internal to the external to show you that this information is even known by governments, that they have literally started implementing what we've been sharing about channeling, non-locality, and entanglement in the external world. For example, here we have engineering the 0 point field and polarizing the vacuum for interstellar flight, using what I just shared to you about how to travel through interstellar flight through the 0 point, in which we can go faster than the speed of light, understanding this physics. Advances in the proposed electromagnetic 0 point field theory. Another one there, another one about propulsion using 0 point, using these non-locality entanglement awareness. NASA here again, another one, vacuum energy physics of breakthrough propulsion. Consciousness in the quantum vacuum, government research on how consciousness interacts. And then this one down here, there's an interesting quote. Framework suggests that consciousness emerges with interactions with the vacuum substratum. Basically, their research is suggesting that consciousness comes from the vacuum. When they say the vacuum, they're talking about the 0 point, the void. The consciousness manifests from a void. This article here shows that altered trance state shows in EEG signatures, which is when they put devices on your brain to measure your brain waves and activity, such as increased gamma coherence or changes in network connectivity, suggest the brain operating in different mode when channeling. People have done studies. Even Daryl Anka did a recent study I saw online where they kind of basically put EEG machines on these beings, people that are channeling and connected to different beings, and their brain goes into a whole different mode. But the crazy thing is, gamma coherence is genius wave brainwave. We have alpha, beta, theta. Those are our normal wave, and delta, deep, deep sleep. Those are our four brainwave states. Gamma is genius fifth dimensional state of consciousness. That's where we're all heading. Your brain goes into gamma many times during channeling. And I'm going to skip through this remote viewing stuff because this is a galactic summit. I want to stay on the galactic thing as much as possible here in ETs. But we're using this understanding again, this quantum understanding through remote viewing. What's remote viewing? How am I able to see this thing that's in, how is this person able to see these cranes in the Soviet Union in 1974? Immediately, without any distance. All information within the subatomic world exists simultaneously. You only need to be able to tap into it and remember how to do so in order to be able to observe. And that's what remote viewing is. Ingo Swann was one of the most famous channelers. He saw the big red spot on Jupiter years before NASA even saw it, through remote viewing, through seeing all information and data existing simultaneously. They're using these same principles. So from what we just shared here, there's a few things let's take away from that. Last thing that we showed was Well, there's an entirely covert world operating alongside us using these principles, right? UFOs, reverse engineered technology, communicating with ETs, from the latest congressional hearings, even dissecting and finding bodies of extraterrestrials, and a whole exact a world that's operating on these principles of physics that the rest of the world is not privy to in the mainstream. There was a guy from Ben Rich, former director of Lockheed Martin. He said, "We now have the technology to take ET home." And then here's the deeper truth. We have an innate ability deep inside of us that emerges under the right circumstances. These abilities will become the norm in the years to come as we begin to rewrite the code of the simulation. The veils were thin. The veils got thicker. The veils are coming thin again. We have the innate ability to, under the right conditions, well, the right conditions are now. These abilities will become the norm in the years to come. And we're going to start realizing we were actors on a stage that forgot we're acting. We were actors on a stage that forgot we're acting. But it's all good because we were supposed to forget we're acting. Because if we were knew we were acting, it wouldn't be so fun. We wouldn't be so fully involved and immersed in this play of life. But we're not only actors that forgot we're acting, we forgot we're the script writers, the directors, the coders, we're all of it. We're the lighting team. And now what's happening with the veils becoming thin again, us having communication, connecting with different beings, opening for first contact, galactic communication, is that we are now realizing that we are those script writers. We can rewrite the simulation. So the questions that we have in the world and that a lot of people never have time to even contemplate because of how consumed we are with day-to-day tasks of just living. What are we really? Why are we here on Earth? What is everything? Who and what are we? What really is the universe? In my opinion, it's all our paradox, the universal paradox. Here are some paradoxes. We're solid, but we're also constantly vibrating. I believe that everything operates on a paradox. And the reason why I know that humanity isn't as enlightened as we can be is because our minds pretty much cannot fathom a paradox. They explode from the understanding of like, how can we be paradoxical? Right? Like paradox is contradictory. Well, quantum physics contradicts physics, different science. But quantum physics is the building blocks of physics because the subatomic world creates the atomic world. The subatomic world is quantum physics. The atomic world is Newtonian regular physics. One builds the other, but they contradict each other. We have now pierced through the veil. We've now gone beyond the atomic world. The universe is infinite, but it's also finite. What is outside infinity? Right? What's outside infinity? What was before the universe? Paradoxes. How can there be a beginning to eternity? If everything is cause and effect, what caused the first thing? If everything is cause and effect, like the Newtonian world, what caused the first thing? Light does not experience time, guys, yet it literally measures how we define it, defines how we measure it. Paradox. Light and matter behave as both waves and particles depending on how we observe them. It can't be a wave and a particle at the same time. It can't exist as a probability and be an actual thing. I shared the double slit experiment earlier, so I'll keep moving on. So, what is reality and how is the matrix constructed? I feel, guys, we exist in some sort of simulation. And I used to say this like 10 years ago, and some people would be a little upset at that because they would think it takes away the organic nature of who we are. But the more and more time progresses, the more it looks like we are. And but here is the paradox. It's real and it's a simulation at the exact same time. Exactly. You know, if we're subatomic particles and our subatomic particles are constantly vibrating, and the subatomic particles are vibrating in and out of reality. What else do we know on Earth that we have created as humans that is something that's a light fractalizing in and out of reality? A hologram. Holograms are fractalized light that are literally vibrating in and out that show you the depiction of something existing when it's not even there. Kind of like what we are. Created this image to kind of explain my beliefs on this whole thing, on what I truly feel and resonate with what's actually occurring here. Is that if you look at the black hole, the void, as I shared earlier, consciousness comes from the black hole, the void. That even the stories like the Prism of Lyra story, where the beings that were in the center of the galaxy that were non-personified energy decided to experience themselves in physical form, and they decided to come to the constellation of Lyra and become the feline ET humanoids that were the first human template of humanity. Even that story is from a book called The Prism of Lyra. Why? Black hole, void energy, consciousness, infinite potential, infinite tapped in, infinite waves to all probabilities in existence. Pure light gets sucked inside of it. Get the black hole, reflect the light through a prism. Now you have all the colors of physical reality creating the simulation. One pure light spectrum becoming all physical lights through the prism, creating the simulation. Light to physical reality. Light is a byproduct of duality. Darkness is a byproduct of duality. In my opinion, light is not God. Sound is God. Frequency is God. The word is God. The sound, the vibration, the frequency, the Big Bang, sped up to become light, slowed down to become darkness. But both of them came from the vibration, the original vibration, the primordial sound. Right? You heard that one, primordial sound. I went through many ancient scriptures. None of them talked about God being light. Almost every one of them talked about God being sound. Light is a byproduct of duality. Light beings are a product of a higher vibratory state of the sound, the original sound frequency. Dark beings are a slowed down, fragmented, fractalized version of the original source that went in the opposite direction. There's the shadow realm. We're going to just talk about the shadow, for example. Now we're talking about light and dark, the physics of the shadow. A shadow is the obstruction of light. When light shines on an object, the object blocks certain wavelengths, preventing them from reaching the surface behind it. That's how shadows created. The result is a silhouette, an area where light information is missing. The darker the shadow, the greater the contrast between what light reaches and what is blocked. It's just the physics of how an actual shadow looks on Earth. But in human perception, without that contrast of that shadow, we wouldn't have clarity. That shadow literally gives us definition. There would be no visible depth, there would be no distinction, there would be just pure light. Our eyes and brains rely on differences in brightness to create dimensions and meanings. So we need that projection of light from that void in order to reflect and create a shadow to give us contrast, the dance between the light and the dark. Shadow gives form to light, allowing consciousness to perceive the physical world. Light reveals reality, and the darkness defines it. Let's take it metaphysical. Shadow represents potential, right? The infinite, the darkness that the universe became when the duality, the oneness split to the duality, the singularity became the duality. The darkness was the unilluminated aspects of consciousness waiting for awareness to light be shone upon it. The unknown, the unseen, the hidden. Light symbolizes truth or consciousness. Shadow symbolizes unseen knowledge. When light meets shadow, what was hidden becomes known. This is the essence of what's going on. Light meets the shadow. The darkness meets the light. They have a beautiful dance to go back to the singularity. This is the essence of what's happening when we awaken, when we channel. Could it be that each lower dimension is the shadow of the higher dimensional self? Right? We all exist here on Earth. And if you look down right now, you might see your shadow. What is your shadow? Your shadow is a two-dimensional version of yourself, right? It's two-dimensional. You are the third-dimensional version of yourself. Could it be that we are the shadow of our fourth-dimensional, fifth-dimensional selves? Is our fifth-dimensional selves the shadow of our sixth-dimensional self? Right? In essence, that is what is happening from these shadow realms, different fragmented shadow realms of ourselves that are experiencing ourselves. And how beautifully symbolic is it when we're doing the shadow work? Shadow work, working with the darkness in order to reintegrate with a higher version of ourselves. And the next bunch goes into evidence witness simulation. But for time's sake, I'm going to jump through it all and we're going to get into the closing part here. There are many ways to enter the simulation. You can dream yourself awake onto planet Earth from another planet, another reality. You can project yourself from projection rooms. You can astral travel and live a life on Earth. You can reincarnate in the birthing process, the most common one. You can come through interdimensional technology. There's bilocation from other planets and dimensions that beings have used to come here and live a physical life for a little while. Consciously existed in some multiple lives simultaneously, consciously existing multiple lives simultaneously. So if we lived in a simulated or holographic universe, then consciousness is the source code, and we are its active creators, tuning into different layers of the program through vibration, intention, attention, and awareness. So what are we? Are we a dream, a simulation, a hologram? Do we live within a computer hard drive? Are we real and non-real? Are we physical and non-real physical? Are we a program? Are we a virtual reality that we have projected ourselves into, coupled with consciousness and a soul? Or are we all of the above? Universe source wanted to experience itself infinitely. Chances are we're everything. We're the prize. Earth prize is the gift. It's the physicality, it's the experience of everything, all coalescing right now. Time goes in cycles. Time goes in ages. The civilization spoke about it. We're going through this upturning consciousness. The descension, as I shared, light and darkness both comes from the oneness. We went through an age of darkness. The Kali Yuga is literally the dark ages. It was all meant to be. The best way to learn what we truly want in a world of amnesia is by experiencing what we don't want. In a world of amnesia, that is. That's the caveat there. The best way to learn is through what we don't want. And that's what we've gone through. We've gone through the dark night of soul. We've seen what we don't want. We learn whether it's in a relationship where you go through ones that are traumatic until you realize that's not what I want for myself, or whether it's collectively as a human where you're ready to move free and break free from the trauma bond that we've had with reality so that we can truly remember and wake up. Regardless of what this is, regardless of what we are and what is happening now, this is what is happening now. Humanity is waking up, right? There is a way to live on this planet that works for everyone. I showed you even evidence scientifically that we're waking up. The planet is moving through this galaxy. We have a universe of experiences waiting for us to remember. It is time to get behind the wheel and drive through reality consciously. It is time for us to break free from the cycles of forgetfulness and reach the greatest heights that we can imagine and dream of. Reality, paradox here. Reality is a very real dream. And once we become lucid within it, we're lucid in the dream, we can only imagine what we can see, feel, and experience. And that's it for me, guys. And thank you so much for listening to me. And again, if you guys want to know more about me, portal2ascension.org, sign up there, 70 events a year. NewLivingExpo.com, 3 weeks, the largest event I've ever done. Would love to see you guys there. San Rafael, California. We have 111 speakers and 125 exhibitors. And thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you so much, Neil. You
Yeah, my
packed a lot
pleasure.
in there. It's a lot of
Wow.
food for thought.
Wow. Very
Beautiful,
well
beautiful.
done. Yes. And I love that notion of the lower dimensional self, like us right here, being just a shadow of our higher dimensional self. I love that. That is so powerful, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
That's so powerful. Like, how can we let, if we really get that and hold it and live it, there is no fear, right? There is no fear. There's no room for fear. And that's some of these great spiritual teachers that hold that. Sri Yukteswar, who you showed in your yuga chart there. That's why the masters literally have no fear. So that's really powerful. I just love that. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. My
Really
pleasure.
cool.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, very, very cool. All right. Portal to Ascension, everyone. Check it out. And your San Rafael is coming up shortly. So
Mhm.
awesome. Cool. Okay. Thank you so much, Neil.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. It's really nice to meet you, and I really hope we get to work together again sometime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much to do, so much
I
to
know,
share.
right? This is just the beginning.
It is. I just
Right.
love the way you organized it. You really made it usable for people to
Yes.
grasp the science and the spirituality, how it's all one, comes together.
It- I feel like what needs to happen is that we need to operate at both hemispheres at the same level.
Yeah,
And so what happens with humanity is we overcorrect by going to the other extreme. So we overcorrect from the linearity by going all the way to the creativity only. And and then we kind of throw the other part out. And so once we learn, if we start learning metaphysical concepts that are so like secular and beautiful and heart-centered, but we also couple it with the science and the linearity of what's going on in this world, it does something to our brains where we're
Mhm.
able to, you know, utilize both of those things and start looking at the world from a holistic perspective rather than one side or the other side.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
really good point. And this is going to help us resolve the polarity on our planet between
Mhm.
humans, family members, friends, right? Even in the spiritual community, we all need to really get this information so that we can begin to build the bridge of humanity back to each other, not be divided and conquered. And so this whole thing about this, we are rising in energy, rising in frequency. That's why it feels so chaotic, right?
Yeah.
That's why it feels like shit's going to hell in a handbasket. We're
I
just,
just think it's great that we acknowledge each other now in the diversity. Nobody has to be right. Nobody has to be wrong. We're all
Yeah.
diverse individual beings, but yet we're all sovereign. But yet we're one. We're still all connected, and that's finally come into, I think, enough the collective consciousness that we can move forward more quickly now without
Yeah.
having the judgment.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah, that's a huge thing without judging others, you know,
Right.
because we're all humans, we're all in this world together, we're all a product of our environment, our past lives, our incarnational, our soul contracts. We don't really know why we do what we do and why people do what they do, but we do know that we're all connected and on this planet together, and only together are we going to make real change.
Exactly.
Yeah,
There's a part for everyone.
love that.
exactly.
Thank you, Neil. Neil
Thank you
Gar,
guys.
Portal to
Blessings.
Ascension.
Thank you,
Thank you, thank
everybody.
you, thank you. Have a
Yeah.
beautiful rest of your cruise.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, talk
Thank
later.
you. All
Bye.
righty. Bye-bye.